Hi guys, it's KvotheD here, and today I'm doing something that I haven't done before, a build guide video for my Dark Pact Necromancer. First thing first, this is off-meta build and not the most efficient farmer out there. If you want to blow everything up with your Necro, then go for Poison Nova and Corpse Explosion one. With this out of the way, let's look into the content of today's video. So first I will go through stats, skills and early progression. Then I will switch to gear and thoughts on FCR breakpoint. Then number 3 will be my thoughts on the build in general. And lastly I will do some exemplary runs in several areas. Okay, so let's start first with stats, skills and early game. So generally I would suggest progressing from level 1 to 6 with Amplify and Curse Mastery. You don't really need Thief or anything. With a basic skeleton you can get to the level 6. Yeah, it's a little bit slow, but it should be okay. So then 6 to 12, I think it's important to get a clay golem to tank for you and actually start putting points into your Dark Pact and reach level 5 with this. From level 12 to 18 I would suggest that you put points into Life Tap, Iron Maiden, and also bring the Curse Mastery to level 10. On level 18 though, make sure to get a Blood Warp. This helps to relocate your mercenary. Later on, from 18 to 30, I would go evenly between Curse Mastery and Dark Pact. The reason here is that the mana cost grows really quick and you will not have enough mana to deal with this. Believe me, it's much easier to play if you can cast 3 to 4 times Dark Pact without chugging a potion. Then from level 30 onward, just consider maxing Curse Mastery and Dark Pact. So this will give you enough damage to actually deal with majority of the game stuff, and also you will probably want to have your Curse Mastery maxed first so you can get at least like 2 curses running at the same time and then eventually 3 of them, which will also help you to deal with areas in the Hell level difficulty. Then basically after that you can evenly go with either of the curses. My choice was Amplify damage first, then I went with Weaken, and finally with Decrepify. Oh, and one thing I actually forgot. So Iron Maiden, max it out after you max Dark Pact and Curse Mastery, because it gives the highest synergy to the Dark Pact. So again, it will increase your damage. And also, yeah, you can choose different things based on your gear, mana pool and survivability, but again, I think Amplify damage will help your mercenary to kill more stuff. Weaken will be extremely helpful in surviving, and Decrepify will be very helpful to basically keep monsters away and do the crowd control thing. Alright. So this is about stats, skills and early game progression. Then let's look into the gear. So actually this is something that is quite flexible, and this is what I find with this character really nice. So in the early game, yeah, do as usually your stealth, lore, or maybe gamble a circlet in the early game with +1 to skills. Do your spirit sword as soon as you can, and to pump up your resistances, buy from Act 1 Nightmare vendors good gloves with res, boots with faster run, walk and resistances, and belt with either FHR and life or maybe some single res as well. Yeah, so then for your merc, definitely make Malice at the early game, so to help you with bosses, because basically those pose the main struggle for that build, as your Dark Pact will not have enough single target damage. And also just to help you out in early progression, using Iron Maiden and Life Tap skills really helps to basically kill bosses faster. So they will basically with Iron Maiden kill themselves, and with Life Tap your Merc or Clay Golem will live way longer than without it. Then what is really important is to make the Insight as soon as you can, because you will have a lot of mana problems, and I will explain later why. You can pretty much beat the hell with this, only ancients can be somewhat challenging, so I would recommend to level up a little bit more before them. and yeah, get full inventory of mana potions. Alright, let's now switch to gear and basically my thoughts on FCR. So let's start first with showcasing you the gear I have. And yeah, the crucial point here is the Black Hand key, because it gives you +5 to curses and 30 FCR and some life after each kill. But the most important, of course, is +5 to curses. This will give you a massive boost to damage. You can, of course, use Hoto or any rare wand or any other unique, but eventually you want to get the Black Hand key because this will be very important. If you corrupt it, well, it's even better. I have one socket, but I don't have any East runes to put there, for example. For the shield, so I went with Homunculus, but to be fair, most of the time I've been running with this Necro head. It has 2 skills, some poison res and some other skills, so nothing really special, and honestly that was enough. If you want more resistances, then you can socket it with Perfect Diamond or Amarune. This works also pretty well. But why did I choose Homunculus over Bone Flame or, for example, Dark Force Spawn? So Bone Flame is quite nice. If you don't have any mana problems, then you can use it. It's decent free to all skills, 30 faster run walk, higher resistance, I think you can get up to 30, so quite good. If you corrupt it and sock it with something, it's even better. But simply I went with this one because of 22 energy, regenerate mana 33% and 5 to mana after each kill. This character is really hungry for mana. Just to give you an idea about it, so I usually use amp damage, it's almost 19 mana, then weaken, which is 20 mana, here 27 mana on Decrepify, and 26 mana here. So basically, to deal damage once, you need to spend 100 mana. My total mana pool is 300, so I could do only 3 times before I will run out of it. Then, due to the mechanic of the Dark Pact, you will often have to recast one of the 3 curses, because you will just not hit it perfectly. This leaves you with very little mana, and if you don't have any ways to gain that back, you will be always lacking it. And believe me, it is really annoying to run in this build without mana and basically chuck potions every 2 seconds. It brings no joy. That's why I chose Homunculus. For the circlet, or for the headpiece, I have this diadem that I found in some random map. 2 to necro skills, faster run walk, faster cast rate, and basically nothing else. I corrupted with enhanced defense, and I put 1 socket in it via request, and just added the perfect topaz. So you could use Shaco or basically any other, like Steel Skull or Dark Sight or anything you find useful, Steel Shade. So anything would work, honestly. There is nothing really special. You don't need FCR there because you can get it easily in the other pieces to the 75% breakpoint. For the gloves, of course, Trangulus, 2 to curses, FCR, and Cold Res, they make the cut here. For the chest piece, honestly, I just didn't find anything better in all the time playing, so I used Hagen's Wisdom, 1 to all skills, 20 FCR, 20 FHR, and also additional mana after each kill, again helps. Corrupted with 2 sockets, so I put the Topazes there, all fine here. You could use anything like Skin of the Viper Magi, for example, or anything else you can make here. Enigma or Chains of Honor is up to you. Then for the boots, I use Word Travelers, only for MF and nothing really else needed. I don't really like resistances, or if I need more, then I would probably swap out here. Belt, I'm using Gold Wrap, so just again for MF, nothing else. If you don't have a Cannot Be Frozen source, then you can use Trunks Belt. Otherwise, yeah, stick to what you like. There is no really required anything. But again, I like to MF, so I put more MF here. As for the Ami, I'm using Mara. Again, you can see that I kind of without Mara don't have that much resistances, but also I think it's nice to have 2 to all skills, some attributes, and yeah, and again all resistances. So for me this is good. I'm not sure what could be the alternative, but I think Mara is basically quite good. If you have any good caster amulet with 2 to necro skills, with FCR, with MF resistances, go for it, that's good. But Mara is good enough. Otherwise I was running with plus curses Emmy most of the time. As for the rings, here you basically have your variability. I use one Nagel for the more magic fine, and another one is BK ring with 12 faster run walk corruption. Again, it is really nice, but honestly I would swap it for SOJ just to have more mana pool if I had to. And so yeah, you see you have one ring slot that is absolutely up to you. So if you need more FCR, put an FCR there. If you need resistances, get a rare ring with resistances. So I used these 2. So this one has some resistances and MF on it and dexterity, and this one also has energy resistances and again MF. So anything will work. This gear, you can see it's very cheap. There is nothing really expensive. I think all of this can, like maybe Blackhand keys like pull and Homunculus is or pull, sometimes even Lem or Worldstone shard. Mara is expensive, but it's not absolutely needed, so you could use any other Emmy. Okay, let's have a look into the character screen and the resistances. So as you can see, I don't rock basically cap resistances. I have fire 58, cold 32, 26 lightning, but for the places that we are going into and what we're going to farm, we don't really need much resistances. Plus you always have a lot of crown control and safety with your curses, and the American clay golem can tank a lot of things for you, so you don't really need more. You can, if you want, then replace some of the rings and boots and you will have all of them. Also, if you noticed, I don't have anything socketed in my homunculus. If I add that rune there, then we'll be set with almost capped resistances. Alright, now let's look into damage reduction. So again, I don't have any damage reduction, but maybe with Shaco you would have some, but not absolutely needed. So again, all the damage is absorbed by your Merc and Golem. As you can see, I hit breakpoint 16 for FHR, which is quite nice thanks to the KvotheD, and 75 FCR breakpoint, which is good, but you definitely don't need to go higher. And the reason for this is that you need to line up your curses, 3 of them perfectly in a row. So you need to do 6 clicks perfectly in a row to make sure all of them hit and you don't mess it up, and then also switch to Dark Pact and cast it as well. So it is basically 8 clicks or presses that you need to do, and I think 75 FCR breakpoint makes it something like 11 frames per cast, which, considering game is running on 25 frames, you really need to do every action in half a second, and you have to do it perfectly. And believe me, in majority of the situations you won't be able to do it perfectly. So only when you're standing still and concentrating you will be able to do it faster or at that speed, but in most cases not, so really don't bother about it. 48 or 75 is quite good. Here you can see that I also hold quite nice amount of MF, and finally I have 251 MF and 251 gold fine. I discovered it. Gold fine I think is from Geats, and gold wrap that was corrupted, so it's quite coincidence. Few things about gear that I forgot to mention. So Bloodlord Skull, Dark Force Spawn, so don't really use it. It's already hard to play with 3 curses. With 4 curses it's way harder. Unless you are a supporting build, then I don't think you really need it. Also in the rest I think Dark Force Spawn is kind of weaker than any of the other Necro heads. I forgot to mention also my inventory. So I have Geats, then assorted life, faster run walk, curses, killers, about 7 of them. You could put more, but I don't think it's really needed as damage is not growing that high. And then I have some resistances, small charms with MF, large charm with life and resistances. basically what I felt was missing. Again, you want to swap out some of the skillers and add more charms for resistances if you want, so you have flexibility there. Let's look into Merc gear. So for the Merc, I really found that the crucial items here is the insight, so make it in the light polyarm or spear, in the ethereal one especially. Try to roll the highest meditation aura as possible, and then look for the critical strike and enhanced damage. So the priority would be still here, the meditation aura. Shaft stop is a chest piece with 25% damage reduction from here and 10% from rock stopper, also with resistances and FHR. Really, this Merc can tank anything. It doesn't have problems with any monster in the game. Maybe for the Travincal I would swap out a few things a little bit, but otherwise for the maps he could tank alone the whole horde of monsters. For cows the same, the pit, Pindle, basically anything really. For the boots I put the Gore Riders just to have more damage output out of him. Trangle's belt to have cannot be frozen, and as a gloves I have the Grave Palm. Again, 16% deadly strike is helpful, but really in fact I just don't have anything better. Let's look into the things here. So yeah, again he has almost capped, basically all resistances capped with conviction. Of course they will be a little bit middle way, but it's alright. He has 35% damage reduction. I believe it is a Defiance Merc, so with Aura there will be I think like 43% or something like this, so pretty solid. He has good capacities to deal damage like Deadly Strike, Crushing Blow, Open Wounds, so all of this is pretty nice. Hit recovery 30, could be a little bit more of course, and you probably can tweak some stuff with attack speed, but it does its job basically for now. Maybe last thing about the build that I want to say before moving to the last final thoughts is that you can see that at level 42 the damage is about 1.7 to 2.2, so like 6.6k is the highest damage possible. You can probably tweak it more, so if you for example get all the items here corrupted for plus skill, this you get Bone Flame with 3 skills and more corruption, and here you get a better chest piece and so on, so more skillers. You probably would get to 3k top damage, so 9k with all the curses. If you use Bloodlord Skull, maybe you can up it to 12 if you line it up perfectly, but honestly this investment to corrupt all of these items and find them will just not be worth it, because still 12k damage is really low for map farming. You won't be really fast, so kind of I would talk you out of it. And yeah, alright, so general thoughts on the build. So I would say the main pros here are that it is super safe. The crown control, thanks to the weaken, decrepify, life tap, amplify damage, and Iron Maiden, really that just makes it super safe, and it is super easy to do untwinged playthrough. In fact I did it and didn't even bother, I think like in 12 hours or something like this. Just tap to level on Pindle and then beat the Bale really easily. Then the second thing that is awesome in this build is the area of effect. So Dark Pact itself curse goes about 8 yards, so it's kind of half of a screen, although all the other curses, they have the radius of 15 yards, then 14 yards, and here again 15 yards. The maxed out Iron Maiden has 17 yards. This basically covers your entire screen. So if you've seen my cow video, you saw that I would cast it and basically touch all the cows on the screen and behind it. So this is really awesome. You have a capacity to just no need for aiming at all. Then the Blood Warp. Of course, having a native teleporting skill to relocate your revives or mercenary or golem really helps in many situations to just do the gameplay you need to do. Then another thing, probably also really nice, is that almost without any gear, it is really a decent farming character for the pit, for Pindle, Shenk and Eldritch. And with more gear you could also run CS, but I would suggest you to do it without Diablo because it just takes too long. Cows can be done, and Travincal as well. Also, I would consider that it's a good character for lower Kurast, because if you have the harmony on the swap, and with all the curses, if you especially take Terror in there, you could really run it fast without being bothered by any mob, and basically get those clickables and find the high runes and shards and whatnot. And lastly, it is really easy to gear up. So as I mentioned, all of these items, they are super cheap. Even at the start of the season, I think the most expensive will be probably a Blackhand Key because it's quite rare, and maybe the Homunculus. Everything else is super cheap and easy, and pull them, maybe runes is the maximum you need, and you will find most of this item likely yourself. Then about the bad points. So really it is very low damage. So again, 6-7k damage with level 42 of the skill is too low. You don't deal damage. So it is barely enough for cows, and yeah, just forget about maps and anything like this, where this build with AoE will really shine. Then the second con point is that it is really hard to play. So as you remember, you need to line up one curse, then second, then third, and then lastly do the Dark Pact to deal any damage. Usually it results in about 3 seconds before you deal any damage to any monster, and this repeats almost every 3 seconds. Comparing to any other builds, most of them start dealing damage in the half second you see the mob. Yeah, this adds complexity and difficulty. Yeah, so I would say these are 3 main problems: that it's really hard to mechanically line up all the curses, low damage, and that it takes a lot to deal your first damage. So in the moment my Merc is freaking out, but we'll forgive him for that. Yeah, so as I mentioned, basically it's a niche, and it's an off-meta build that can be enjoyable if you like to tinker and squeeze characters' potential. I enjoyed it whenever I had enough damage to blow entire screen in 1 or 2 casts, and also overall as a Necro player I really like having a meaning in the curses skill tree, also having to choose which curses to use. For example, on Pindle and CS I have Decrepify first, then Weaken, and then up damage to negate any danger from all the mobs around. And for cows, for example, I used Weaken first, up damage second, and Iron Maiden to ensure that it is easy to hoard them into groups and they don't get slowed down by Decrepify, but also Weaken first, because usually first curse I can always put there so that my Merc doesn't suffer and his survivability stays good. For bosses, as I mentioned, you can also switch to Decrepify and Life Tap and Amp Damage, or Weaken, or even Iron Maiden, so whatever you fancy. Right. Okay, so now then, yeah, as promised, let's have a couple of exemplary runs. So I will start with Shenk and Eldritch. So usually it goes something like this. You do a Blood Warp to locate a guy. We also find here Suicide Branch, how nice. Some Jewel with FHR max damage. Again, switching to Harmony, running really fast. Casting all those curses in a nice line, and you see things are already dead. Let's get a quick heal. There was a nasty pack of reds there. Then let's look into Travincal here as well. I didn't swap any gear, of course, for the Merc, but it shouldn't be a big problem. Again, casting here and there. Quite fast, they're getting dead. Of course, not the fastest way you can kill them, but still I think pretty decent. And lastly, let's go into pit. Alright, here are we in the pit, so basically the same thing. You can see that it's pretty fast and everything dies really quick, so and yeah, again, notice how big is the AoE damage here. Yeah, that was quick. I would just run to either a big group of mobs or the boss pack, so something like this. Okay, we got a dead end, so let's go back really quick. Here's a nice group. Got the ruby. Alright, moving on, and yeah, until the level 2. Yeah, you can see that basically nothing really comes close. Let's just pop this chest over here. Alright, so that wraps up my video attempt to make thoughtful overview of the Dark Pact Necromancer. I'm looking forward to changes for the season 2, and I'm sure this build will be among the top ones considering group dungeons and all the curses you can use there to support the party. And also I hope they will bump up the damage. So have fun playing and let me know if you have other suggestions for that build. I will be really curious to see your ideas. Thank you and see you next time.